everyone, and welcome back to Doing Viewer Challenges, the series where, you guessed it, I attempt challenges submitted by you, my viewers and subscribers. Today I'm going to be picking out 8 of you guys' challenges and showing you how I went about completing them. Starting off with this challenge from Arbitration, who wanted me to defeat Ryo Watanabe using only the 67 Shelby. First up was the Speed Challenge, which actually went over pretty smoothly thanks to this crash that ended up taking out Ryo and allowed me to get to the finish line worry-free. The Wheelie Challenge was also pretty easy, so there's nothing to talk about here. Then for the Top Speed Run, which was also easy because Ryo ended up totaling his car again.
You suck!
The half-mile drag was also pretty unremarkable in terms of challenge, and even the last Speed Challenge race, which still did take me a handful of restarts, didn't really give me any major problems. But now it was time to head over to Tokyo for the real fun. Starting off with the time attack race, and right off the bat, I already knew there was no shot I was gonna win this race straight up. So it was time to get creative. And instead of going forward and completing the race as intended, I decided to turn around, crash into Ryo, and total his car, allowing me to take the victory.
That's not fair!
And with that out of the way, it was time for what I looked forward to least, his infamous drift race, especially considering that the GT500 just isn't good at scoring points in drift mode. But through using the strategy of backing up at the start, I was able to get just enough points to beat Ryo. Then I completed the sector shootout and the second drift race with no problem, and it was on to the final race. And even though I had to pretty much wall ride every corner, I managed to pull it off by the skin of my teeth on the final lap, marking the end of this challenge. Next up was a challenge from Rabbit Gaming, who wanted me to beat both of Ryo Watanabe's drift races using any classic muscle car with a stock gearbox. So I've actually tested this challenge with multiple different classic muscle cars and found that it's actually quite easy because of the custom tuning I normally use. So I decided to buy a Plymouth Roadrunner with no custom setup and no part reductions to make this challenge as hard as possible. But I still beat both races on my first try. Anyways, for Rabbit's second challenge, he wanted me to achieve a low 9-second quarter-mile time using a front-wheel drive car with only Stage 2 upgrades. And for those of you who don't know, front-wheel drive cars in this game are really bad at drag races because of their atrocious wheel spin. Even if you use Stage 4 parts, it can be really hard to get a decent drag time in a front-wheel drive. And this guy wants me to use Stage 2 parts. So I picked up the 2 best cars I could think of for this task, the Mazda Speed 3 and the Leon Cupra. And fun fact for anybody who hasn't seen my now unlisted video covering this, if you bring the Cupra to a drag race, the announcer will react to your choice of car in a confused manner.
Okay, this I gotta see. We gotta see on the script. Folks, what do you think? You wanna see that car run or what? I wanna see it just for the novelty factor.
Moving on, though the Mazda Speed 3 did decently but wasn't quite able to hit the mark, the Leon Cupra on the other hand did it on the first try, thus marking the completion of yet another challenge. Unfortunately, I couldn't quite find the comment for this one, but the next challenge is as follows. I am to defeat every king except for Ryo Watanabe using stock variants of their cars. So naturally I decided to take on Aki Kimura first, as this is where I figured I'd have the best odds, and drifting in this game is just really fun for me. Anyways, as I'm sure you can all imagine, this part of the challenge was really easy for me, partly due to the fact that the drift AI in this game kinda sucks, and also because the RX-7, even in stock form, is very dominant in drift racing. Next, I decided to pay a visit to Ray Krieger and his god-awful M3. But here's the thing, this time I'm driving an M3 as well, but I don't even have any upgrades to help me. Regardless, I managed to pass him on the first lap, which somehow I don't think you're supposed to be able to do in a stock M3. Oh yeah, and he totaled his car in lap 2. This guy sucks so bad. Next up, the sector shootout, which was impossible for me to win legitimately because even though I was super close to him the entire time, he somehow managed to score way more points than me each sector. So I had to use the same strategy I used on Ryo back in Tokyo and turn around and total his car. Then in the third and final race, Ray did what he does best and crashed in the second corner, allowing me to take the victory with ease. Now for the last two, which I was not looking forward to at all. starting off with Carol Monroe, who I was surprisingly able to beat in the stock Mustang GT after using a little patience and waiting for her to false start. But now it was time for Nate Denver. Of course, in race number 1, he crashed in his normal spot, and I went into the second race hoping that I could follow the same strategy and wait for him to crash. But that just didn't happen. I even tried for well over an hour, restarting countless times to see if somehow I could get him to crash, but he never did. So, as unfortunate as it may be, I decided to give up on Nate Denver and say that I just couldn't complete this challenge. Next up, we have 4 different challenges from one viewer, one of which I already completed, which is beating Aki Kimura in a stock RX-7. But anyways, his first challenge is beating Ray Krieger in a Lexus IS350. Next up, beating Nate Denver in a Chevelle SS. Now, it's no surprise that the classic muscle cars are terrible for speed challenges in Need for Speed ProStreet, and the Chevelle SS is no exception. In fact, I totaled my car more times than I'd like to admit because of how bouncy the damn suspension is. But because Nate Denver was equally terrible, I got through it in the end. This one was a fun one. At times it was kind of frustrating and terrifying at the same time, but pretty fun. For their 4th and final challenge, they wanted me to defeat Carol Monroe using a Plymouth Cuda, and come on, I just beat her using a stock Mustang GT. Of course this one was easy. Finally, to end this video off, I'm going to be doing this challenge where this viewer wanted me to beat Ryo Watanabe's grip races using a C2 Corvette and a 2003 Mustang GT, which was honestly pretty unproblematic due to the surprisingly strong cornering ability of the C2 Corvette. On the other hand, even though the 03 Mustang GT wasn't all that great, it did just enough to complete the sector shootout. Also, I want to give a quick shout out to Marky2200 for providing the tunes for both of these cars because I don't think I could have done this challenge without them. And with the completion of this challenge, that's going to wrap up today's video. As always, if you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like. And if you want to keep up with all of my future videos, definitely consider subscribing to the channel. Anyways, that's going to be it for me. See you on the next one.